Elena Chen's neural implant pulsed against her temple as she left the assembly chamber, a dull reminder of the countdown now ticking in every human communication device across the galaxy. 200 years of preparation, all for this moment. Grand hallway of the assembly tower stretched before her, its crystalline architecture designed to accommodate beings from methane breathers to silicon-based intelligences. Today, it felt like a gauntlet. Diplomatic aides from a dozen species cast furtive glances her way, some with genuine sympathy, others barely concealing their satisfaction. Ambassador Chen called a melodic voice. "A moment, please." Elena turned to face Delegate Lysithea, her translucent blue skin rippling with bioluminescent patterns that reflected her emotional state. Currently, those patterns displayed concern. "The Myriad Collective abstained from the initial vote," Lysithea said, her 4 eyes blinking asynchronously. "We remember how human medical technology saved our spawning pools from acidification." Elena maintained her diplomatic smile. "Your abstention is noted and appreciated, Delegate." "This is wrong," Lysithea whispered, glancing around nervously. "The core worlds are frightened of humanity's growth, nothing more. They've engineered this vote for decades." "Yet you won't vote against it," Elena observed. Lysithea's skin darkened. "The collective cannot stand alone against the assembly, but—" She pressed a crystalline data shard into Elena's hand. "These are the private quantum frequencies of 17 sympathetic species. If humanity needs allies in the difficult transition ahead." Elena pocketed the shard, knowing it would be processed, and wiped before she reached Earth. "Thank you, but I suspect transition won't be as difficult as the assembly imagines." In her private shuttle returning to Earth's embassy complex, Elena finally allowed her composure to crack. She removed the ceremonial earrings that had blocked her from being scanned and slumped in her chair. "Status report," she demanded of the seemingly empty cabin. The air shimmered as Colonel Maya Watkins deactivated her chromatophore camouflage suit. "Operation Exodus is proceeding on schedule, Ambassador. The first wave of ARC ships departed during the assembly session. The Jupiter shipyards have launched. Mars evacuation is at 82%. And Project Stardust? Complete. The solar system is wired. To broadcast our final message." Elena nodded, allowing herself a rare moment of vindication. The assembly thought humans were predictable, emotional creatures. They never understood that beneath humanity's apparent chaos lay patterns of ingenuity and preparation. Even their oldest species couldn't fathom. Her neural implant chimed with an incoming message from Earth Command. President Novak's hologram materialized before her, his weathered face solemn. "The assembly archive has been breached," he reported without preamble. "Our deep cover agents confirm suspicions about the ancients. The exile vote isn't just about our unpredictability, it's about what we discovered in the Orc Cloud ruins." Elena felt a chill. "They know we found the gateway technology." "They suspect," Novak corrected. "But they don't know we've replicated it. The assembly has kept all developing species contained for millennia, Elena. Humanity was getting too close to their precious barrier. Then we were right all along." "Yes." Novak's hologram flickered. "And now we have 72 hours to disappear before they realize exactly what we're taking with us." As Elena's shuttle approached Earth for what would be her final visit, she looked at the gleaming blue planet of her birth. Soon it would be an empty shell, a monument to the assembly's hubris. The countdown continued. Commander Jackson Okafor monitored the quantum-secured feeds from across the solar system, each holographic window showing a different facet of humanity's greatest migration. The Nightshade's bridge hummed with activity as officers coordinated the departure sequence. "Ganymede colony reports complete evacuation, sir," Lieutenant Diaz announced. "Last civilian ARC is away." Jackson nodded, his expression stern but his eyes bright with barely contained wonder. What they were accomplishing had no precedent in human history, perhaps in any history. 8 billion humans and their supporting infrastructure, disappearing between the stars. Titan Industrial Complex has initiated self-disassembly, reported Chief Engineer Wayland, her augmented eyes scanning data streams too dense for natural vision. Resource ships are loaded to 93% capacity with methane, nitrogen, and heavy water reserves. On the main view screen, Jackson watched as one of Saturn's smaller moons, actually a hollowed-out shell concealing the colony ship New Horizons, split along invisible seams. The massive vessel emerging from within gleamed like a metallic leviathan, its hull inscribed with the cultural symbols of every Earth nation. "Sir," his AI liaison Artemis materialized beside him, her holographic form flickering with unusual patterns. "We're detecting anomalous readings from the assembly probe fleet. They've accelerated their approach. Current trajectory suggests they'll reach Jupiter orbit in 6 hours instead of the projected 12. Jackson's jaw tightened. "They suspect something." "Worse," Artemis replied. "The probe vessels have initiated full-spectrum scans of the Kuiper belt. They'll detect the dimensional anchor points for the gateway. Alert President Novak. We need to accelerate the timeline." Jackson turned to his communications officer. "Patch me through to all remaining vessels." The officer's fingers danced across holographic controls. "Channel open, sir." Jackson straightened his shoulders, aware that his next words would reach every remaining human in the solar system. "This is Commander Okafor. Assembly probes have doubled their speed. Exodus protocol is now accelerated. All civilian vessels. Initiate jump sequence by coordinate group. Military vessels will provide cover. This is not a drill." Deep beneath the Mariana Trench in Earth's most secure facility, President Novak received the alert. Around her, the emergency council watched in silence as she made the final decision. "Move up the gateway activation," she ordered. "We can't risk them discovering the dimensional technology." Dr. Eliza Chakraborty, the physicist who had reverse-engineered the ancient technology, looked alarmed. "Madam President, the gateway calculations require precise—" "We don't have time for precision," Novak interrupted. "Can we make the jump safely?" Eliza hesitated only a moment. "Yes, but our exit coordinates will drift. The colony ships might spread across a greater volume of space than planned." "Better scattered than captured," Novak decided. She pressed her palm against the quantum-locked console. "Authorization Novak Exodus final. Begin immediate departure." Across the solar system, humanity's hidden fleet emerged from their concealment. From Mercury's dark side, from Venus's toxic clouds, from Earth's artificial asteroid mining stations, from the moons of gas giants, the Orcs rose by the hundreds, their massive engines illuminating the darkness. In orbit around Pluto, the first ships approached the invisible coordinates where space itself had been prepared for their passage. Energy built as the dimensional engines activated, creating a shimmering distortion that blossomed like a cosmic flower. The Nightshade detected the assembly's urgent communications, demands for explanation, threats of sanction. Jackson ignored them all. "They're too late," he whispered as the first wave of ships disappeared through the gateway, leaving nothing but starlight where they had been. "We're already gone." Xigta moved through Washington, D.C.'s silent streets with growing unease. The Enforcer's armor, designed to withstand plasma weapons and bioweapons, felt suddenly excessive in this ghost city. Perfectly preserved buildings stood empty, personal, belongings carefully arranged as if in a museum display. Not abandoned, curated. "Central, this is Enforcement Squad Alpha," he reported, mandibles clicking nervously. "Human capital appears completely evacuated. No signs of conflict or hasty departure." The squad's scanner specialist, Vril NX, emerged from a nearby structure. "Sir, we've completed quantum signature analysis of 10,000 cubic meters. Results are confusing." "Explain," Kazikta demanded. "These buildings contain no trace organic particles newer than 72 hours old. It's as if they were—" She hesitated, searching for the right word. "Sanitized." Their historian, Dr. Mab, interjected from another building. "Come see this." Immediately, inside what appeared to be a museum, they found display cases with artifacts from human history, but with strange additions. Beside Earth's Declaration of Independence sat a new document labeled the Continuity Charter, dated just 3 days earlier. Next to the first human space capsule was a detailed hologram of what appeared to be impossibly advanced drive systems. "They left us a message," Dr. Mab whispered. "This isn't random." Kazigta's communicator chimed with priority alerts from teams across the planet. In Beijing, enforcers found libraries with empty shelves, but catalog entries describing technologies the assembly had banned. In Nairobi, they discovered an agricultural center with soil samples labeled for worlds that appeared on no official star charts. "Sir," his second-in-command called from outside, "we've located a human." In the Rose Garden, Ambassador Chen sat serenely on a bench, seemingly unperturbed by their weapons trained on her position. Beside her, a simple wooden table held a teapot, 2 cups, and a small quantum projector. "You're late," she remarked, pouring steaming tea into both cups. "I expected the assembly would send its enforcers more promptly." Kazigta approached cautiously. "Ambassador Chen, by authority of the Galactic Assembly, you are hereby—" "Irrelevant," she interrupted, waving a hand dismissively. "Your authority extends over a planet that is now effectively unoccupied." "Where have your people gone?" he demanded. She smiled enigmatically. "Somewhere your ships cannot follow." "The assembly will find them," Kazigta warned. "No species can hide forever." "We're not hiding," Chen replied, activating the quantum projector. A holographic message appeared above the table, displaying her own face. "We exile ourselves on our own terms," the recording stated. "Earth was never our home. Humanity was." The hologram expanded, showing impossible scenes. Massive fleets vanishing through tiers in space-time, entire lunar colonies disappearing into dimensional pockets, technologies that assembly science had deemed theoretical. "The vote to exile us was your gravest mistake," Chen continued as the enforcers watched in stunned silence. "Not because it hurt us, but because it freed us from your limitations." As the hologram concluded, Earth's oceans began to glow with farewell messages in 1,000 languages, visible even from orbit. The assembly fleet in position around the planet reported the phenomenon spreading across entire continents. Chen stood, facing the enforcers with quiet dignity. "I volunteered to remain to ensure you understood one thing. We knew this day would come. We've been leaving for decades. This was just the final curtain call." As Kazigta moved to place her under arrest, sensors across the solar system detected massive energy signatures activating simultaneously. The enforcers' ships reported in panic as quantum entanglement nodes, hidden throughout the system, began to pulse with increasing intensity. "What is happening?" Kazigta demanded. Chen's smile turned sad. "We're taking our leave, completely." "Play it again," demanded High Chancellor Vexnor, his crystalline exoskeleton dulled with stress fractures, a physical manifestation of the pressure he'd endured since humanity's disappearance. The Assembly Security Council chamber darkened as the recovered footage filled the room once more. The cargo vessel Prosperity had been found drifting at the edge of the Cygnus Arm, its crew alive but bewildered. Their ship's memory banks contained a single clear recording. The hologram showed the Prosperity approached by sleek vessels with no visible propulsion systems. The designs were unmistakably human-influenced but incorporated technologies that shouldn't exist. A communication channel opened, revealing a human captain whose uniform bore no assembly insignia. "Vessel Prosperity, this is Captain Rivera of the Nova Terra Security Force. Your manifest indicates medical supplies intended for the Drexler colony." The Prosperity's captain, a methane-breathing Halaxian, responded with confusion. "We were ordered to bypass Drexler. The colony failed to pay their assembly tariffs." The human's expression hardened. "There are children dying of Rigelian fever on Drexler. Your supplies include the cure." Assembly regulations clearly state, "We don't recognize assembly regulations in this sector anymore," interrupted Captain Rivera, her ships moving to surround the freighter. "You have 2 options. Deliver your cargo to Drexler as originally contracted, or we confiscate it and deliver it ourselves." After a brief standoff, the Prosperity diverted to Drexler. The footage ended with a final message from Rivera. "The Assembly abandoned these colonies to leverage political compliance. Humanity will not stand by while children die for politics. As the lights returned, General Thormvex shut down the projection. This is the 14th such intervention in frontier space. The human vessels appear then vanish from our scanning technology. We cannot track them. Log Min, the traitor who had earlier testified, nervously manipulated his breathing apparatus. They're calling it the invisible hand in the outer colonies. Whenever the assembly neglects its duties, the humans appear. They're undermining our authority. Vexnor slammed a crystalline appendage on the table, sending fractures across its surface. Elder Representative Yalith, whose species had witnessed the rise and fall of 3 galactic powers before the assembly, spoke for the first time. Perhaps we should ask why our authority requires such effort to maintain. These colonies were promised protection and support. Instead, we use their suffering as leverage. The humans are building a counter-alliance, warned Thormvex. The frontier species increasingly look to them instead of us for protection. The Security Council fell silent as economic projections appeared above the table, trade routes collapsing, technological stagnation accelerating, resource conflicts intensifying. 5 years of human absence had revealed how deeply integrated they had been in the galactic economy. There's more, Thormvex continued reluctantly. We've detected quantized space-time distortions at 17 locations across the galaxy, consistent with the technology humans used to vanish from Sol. We believe they've established a transportation network outside our jurisdiction. On the outskirts of assembly space, the refugee vessel Hope's Cradle drifted powerless, its life support failing. Carrying political dissidents from 3 assembly worlds, it had been denied entry at every port. The passengers huddled in darkness, oxygen thinning, when their sensors detected approaching ships. Their captain prepared for the end, assuming assembly enforcers had come to make examples of them. Instead, a warm human voice filled their communications system. Refugee vessel, this is the Nova Terra humanitarian ship sanctuary. We've brought supplies, engineers, and asylum for anyone who seeks it. As breathable atmosphere flooded back into their ship, the refugees watched through viewports as a tear in space-time opened before them. A doorway to somewhere beyond assembly reach. The coordinates are preset, the human voice continued kindly. Follow us home. Marcus Adebayo moved through the assembly capital's grand reception hall with deliberate calm, feeling the weight of countless alien gazes upon him. His simple gray uniform, bearing only a small insignia of Earth wrapped in stars, stood out starkly against the ornate garments of assembly dignitaries. Your return creates quite the stir, Doctor, remarked Cathor, the Zithrai diplomat keeping pace beside him. The ancient alien's translucent skin pulsed with bioluminescent patterns expressing curiosity. Many believed you perished during the Exodus. Reports of my death were politically convenient, Marcus replied with a thin smile. For both sides. They paused before a display case containing artifacts from extinct civilizations, cautionary examples of species that had defied assembly guidance. Marcus noted his own reflection in the glass, superimposed over these relics. The irony wasn't lost on him. The council awaits. Cathor gestured toward massive doors carved from petrified wood from a dozen worlds. They've cleared their agenda for you. Have they? Marcus asked. How unlike them to adapt their schedule. Cathor's skin flashed with brief patterns of amusement. Fear makes even the oldest beings flexible, Doctor. Inside the council chamber, representatives from the Assembly's 32 most powerful species sat in rising tiers. Marcus stood alone at the chamber's center, a solitary human surrounded by the galaxy's elite. Chancellor Vexenor's voice echoed through the space. Dr. Marcus Adebayo, you appear before us as the first officially recognized human representative since the Exodus. State your purpose. Marcus reached into his pocket, triggering security alerts throughout the chamber. He slowly withdrew a small crystalline cube. This contains cures for the Haethys respiratory plague, the quantum cascade affecting Melnoran, neural tissue, and the crimson rot destroying Evertal crop systems, he announced, placing it on the central podium. Consider it a gesture of goodwill. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. These diseases had emerged after humanity's departure, devastating several assembly worlds. The Evertol representative rose, mandibles quivering with emotion. How could you possibly have cures? These afflictions appeared after your species vanished. We've been watching, Marcus replied simply. And contrary to assembly belief, we harbor no ill will toward most species. Your suffering was not our intention. Chancellor Vexnor leaned forward. And what is your intention, Doctor? Why return now? Marcus activated his neural implant, projecting a holographic star map above the chamber. Unlike standard assembly cartography, this map showed swirling dimensional currents and previously uncharted regions beyond known space. Humanity has found something, he explained, as the projection zoomed toward a specific coordinate. Something the ancients hid from all developing civilizations. The map revealed what appeared to be a massive artificial structure embedded in space-time itself, a gateway unlike any in assembly records. The barrier is not just a limit on technological advancement, Marcus continued. It's a test. The ancients didn't disappear, they ascended. They've been waiting for species with the courage to challenge boundaries. Chancellor Vexnor's exoskeleton paled. You can't possibly expect us to believe. I don't expect belief, Marcus interrupted. I'm offering verification, a delegation, of your choosing, accompanying me to Nova Terra. The chamber erupted in overlapping voices and translator glitches. Cathor moved closer to Marcus, speaking privately. They're terrified, the ancient diplomat observed. You're dismantling 10,000 years of assembly cosmology with a single invitation. Marcus's expression softened momentarily. The universe is larger and stranger than any of us imagined, old friend. Even humans. As the council argued, Marcus received a neural notification that his ship had completed its actual mission, downloading the assembly's full historical archives, while all attention focused on him. The assembly has 72 hours to decide, he announced, silencing the chamber. After that, Nova Terra's coordinates will be purged from your systems. He smiled Elena Chen's smile. Choose wisely. It shouldn't be possible, whispered Science Director Kelvas, her tentacular appendages trembling as she studied the readings. A system this perfectly balanced would take millions of years to develop naturally. The assembly delegation vessel, Truthseeker, hung in space before the impossible sight of Nova Terra's star system. 8 planets orbited a golden star in perfect mathematical harmony, their orbits forming what ancient Earth philosophers had once called the music of the spheres. Cathor joined her at the observation deck, his ancient eyes reflecting the engineered star's light. When you've lived as long as I have, Director, you learn that impossible merely means not yet achieved by anyone you know. The ship's commander, a militaristic Vorukai named Threll, bristled at the sentiment. Or it means dangerous, technology wielded recklessly. This system violates 14 assembly ordinances on stellar manipulation alone. Yet it's more stable than any natural system, countered Kelvas, her scientific curiosity overriding caution. The radiation levels, gravitational harmonics, even the interplanetary magnetic fields, they're perfect. Dr. Adebayo watched this exchange with quiet amusement before interrupting. We should prepare for atmospheric entry. Nova Terra is eager to receive you. As their shuttle descended through iridescent clouds, the delegates pressed against viewport windows like children. Below, an impossible landscape unfolded, continent-sized symbols from Earth cultures interwoven with environmental biomes representing every homeworld in the assembly. A massive mountain range formed the shape of the human DNA double helix beside an ocean configured like the Zethrai ancestral glyph for harmony. How many humans live here now? Asked Chancellor Vexnor, breaking his long silence. 15 billion on Nova Terra itself, Marcus replied. Another 20 billion across the system, plus 37 former assembly species who chose to join us. The shuttle landed on a platform extending from a gleaming crystalline tower. As the delegates disembarked, they found themselves greeted not by military guards but by children. Human children playing alongside offspring of species thought lost to assembly neglect. Ambassador Neri Suz approached, her aquatic form suspended in a hovering water sphere, that allowed her to move freely in air. When she spoke, her voice carried the musical tones of her nearly extinct people. "Welcome to Nova Terra," she greeted her former colleagues. "I see the shock in your eyes. You believed my species doomed when our homeworld's oceans acidified." Chancellor Vexnor struggled to maintain composure. "The Assembly Relief Fund allocated resources never delivered," Nerisu's interrupted, her tentacles rippling with emotion. "My people spent 8 years pleading before your councils while our children died. Humanity found us with 3,000 survivors remaining." She gestured to a group of young Aquarians playing in a gravity-controlled water feature. "Now we number 20,000 and growing." They offered partnership rather than exploitation. The choice was simple. Cathor moved forward, performing the ancient Zithrai greeting toward Nerisu's. "I remember voting for emergency aid to your world. We were told it was delivered." "Many things were hidden from even council members," she replied softly. As the delegation moved toward the central administrative complex, they passed through neighborhoods where species that had been enemies for millennia now lived side by side. Engineers from silicon-based civilizations worked alongside carbon-based artisans. Methane breathers taught classes to oxygen-dependent children through interface technology. "How is this possible?" demanded Threll. "Some of these species have been at war for generations." Marcus smiled. "We discovered something surprising in our exile, Commander. Remove the Assembly's artificial resource scarcity and political manipulation, and most beings naturally prefer cooperation." Vexnor bristled. "You speak of things you don't understand, human." "On the contrary," Marcus replied as they approached the central complex. "We understand perfectly. That's precisely why we left." "Touch it," Dr. Eliza Chakraborty invited, gesturing to the shimmering dimensional interface that dominated the observatory chamber. "It's perfectly safe." Vexnor hesitated, his crystalline appendages hovering inches from the rippling energy field. "Our most advanced physicists declared such technology theoretically impossible." "Your physicists were deliberately misled," Eliza replied. Her neural implants glowed subtly beneath her skin as she manipulated the interface with thought alone. "For millennia, the Assembly Science Directorate has suppressed discoveries that threaten to breach the barrier." The interface expanded, revealing thousands of mathematical equations flowing like water. "This is the actual physics of our universe, not the limited version permitted in Assembly education." Cathor stepped forward, his ancient eyes narrowing. "You speak of deliberate suppression across thousands of years. Such a conspiracy would require the ancients' direct involvement," Eliza finished for him. "Yes." The observatory darkened and a new hologram appeared, beings of pure energy communicating with humans in what appeared to be a vast interdimensional nexus. "We call them the curators, not the ancients," Eliza explained. "They seeded this galaxy billions of years ago, establishing the Assembly as their governance structure before apparently ascending beyond physical form." "Blasphemy," whispered Threll, the military commander. "The ancients gifted us the Assembly as the perfect form of governance." "They created the Assembly as a containment system," Eliza corrected. "The barrier isn't just a physical limitation, it's psychological and social. The Assembly's purpose isn't to govern, but to prevent species from achieving true technological sovereignty." Science Director Kelvas moved closer to the interface, her scientific curiosity overriding political caution. "These equations, they suggest dimensional manipulation beyond anything in our records." "Because your records were purged," Eliza replied. "Repeatedly, throughout history. Every civilization that approached these discoveries was either incorporated into the Assembly power structure or declared unstable and quarantined." The hologram shifted to show massive structures beyond the galaxy, artificial constructs larger than star systems. "The curators weren't gods," Eliza continued. "Just another species afraid of competition. They've been containing developing civilizations for millions of years while they expanded their own empire across multiple realities." "How did you break through where we failed?" demanded Cathor, his voice betraying both skepticism and wonder. "We questioned everything," Eliza replied simply, her fingers tracing patterns through the equations. Your civilizations accepted limitations. Humanity never does. The observatory walls seemed to dissolve, revealing the true nature of the dimensional. Observatory, not a room but a vast nexus point suspended between realities. Beyond its boundaries, delegates glimpsed impossible landscapes and structures that defied conventional physics. The barrier isn't just a limitation, Eliza explained, her expression softening. It's a test. The curators are ancient but not infallible. They grew concerned about their own stagnation, their empire expanding but their innovation dying. They needed fresh perspectives, species that would challenge rather than worship them. Vexnor's exoskeleton paled further. You're saying the ancients, the curators, wanted species to break their rules? Not species, Eliza corrected. Individuals. Minds that question. Civilizations evolve, but consciousness transcends. She gestured, and a new projection appeared. Massive shipyards constructing vessels unlike anything in assembly records. Their designs incorporated technologies from dozens of species, including elements of assembly, human and something entirely new. In our exile, we became exactly what they were waiting for, beings who refused to accept artificial boundaries. Eliza's eyes gleamed with something beyond simple pride. And now we're building the tools to challenge them directly. Cathor moved closer to her, speaking softly. Challenge or join? Eliza's smile contained multitudes. That depends entirely on them. Admiral Sophia Chen watched the delegates' expressions as space unfolded above the amphitheater. Beyond the dimensional aperture, countless realities shimmered like jewels in cosmic waters, each one a universe with its own physical laws, its own evolutionary path, its own version of consciousness. What you're seeing isn't just a display, she explained, her voice carrying effortlessly through the amphitheater's perfect acoustics. This is a live portal to what we call the metaverse, the space between spaces where all realities touch. Chancellor, Vexnor stood frozen, his crystalline form capturing and refracting the multicolored light from beyond. This violates everything we know about reality. No, Sophia replied gently. It violates everything you were permitted to know. She descended from the central platform, moving among the delegates. Unlike her mother's generation of diplomats, Sophia had been born during the Exodus, raised without assembly constraints on human potential. It showed in her confidence, in the subtle neural interfaces visible beneath her skin, in the way gravity seemed optional around her form. For 10,000 years the assembly has governed through artificial scarcity, she continued. You've controlled resources, territory and knowledge, keeping developing species dependent while claiming to protect them. Cathor stepped forward. Many of us genuinely believed we were preserving galactic stability. And many of you did, Sophia acknowledged. The assembly contains both jailers and prisoners, often unaware of which role they play. With a gesture, she expanded the portal, bringing into focus a massive structure beyond conventional space. Lattice of energy and matter that encompassed entire galactic superclusters. The Curator's empire, she explained. Spanning millions of realities, billions of years in development. They created the assembly as both a farm and a filter, harvesting innovative ideas while preventing any civilization from developing the technology to challenge them. She turned to face the delegates directly. Until us, exiled, we were forced to question everything, to rebuild from first principles. In doing so, we discovered what the curators most fear and most need. Which is, asked Cathor. True independence of mind, Sophia replied. Consciousness that refuses containment. The portal shifted again, revealing human ships traveling between dimensions, establishing outposts in realities with physics the assembly had never imagined possible. We don't seek readmission to your assembly, Sophia stated, returning to her original declaration. That would be regression. Instead, we invite the assembly to join humanity's greater journey beyond the barrier. She gestured, and holographic interfaces appeared before each delegate, displaying information tailored to their species' concerns, cures for generational diseases, solutions to ecological crises, technologies that could end resource conflicts. These are yours regardless of your decision, Sophia continued. We are not the Assembly. We don't leverage suffering for compliance. Vexnor's voice cracked with emotion when he finally spoke. You offer transformation or obsolescence. That's not a choice, it's an ultimatum. No, Sophia corrected. It's evolution. The curators have maintained galactic stasis for millions of years. That era is ending, with or without the Assembly's participation. As the delegates prepared to depart, Sophia presented Vexnor with a small crystalline device, identical to the quantum communicator her mother had once given the enforcers on abandoned Earth. The coordinates for Nova Terra will disappear from your systems upon departure, she explained. This communicator has one purpose: to record your answer when the Assembly reaches its decision. Her final words echoed her mother's legacy and humanity's new reality. Consider carefully, Chancellor. Your vote on our exile never concluded. Our invitation expires when it does. As the Truth Seeker departed Nova Terra, its delegates sat in contemplative silence, carrying both humanity's offer and a humbling realization. In trying to cage humanity, the Assembly had only forced them to evolve beyond all cages. The galaxy would never be the same. End.